William reporting from Villa Park in Orange County, California, where sheriffs came out here and probably did an unlawful act not long ago. Cindy Brown has been evicted from her home that she's had for over 20 years.
And they know if I get my files, the evidence is in the files. And so they don't want those files coming out into the record because it'll show during COVID, they've weaponized COVID so that the evidence doesn't come into the record, how they've been laundering the money out of the property and how they've been using counterfeit instruments to try to perfect a purported duly perfected title. They never had it. They're not going to be able to duly perfect the title. At the end of the day, the main issue here is the courts. I filed a new complaint where the court was able to look at the evidence and the fraud really lined up perfectly and we could see it. The Bank of New York Mellon's attorneys didn't like the evidence, so they removed the case to the federal court. And when they did it, they did not take the orders or the motions, all the activity that took place at the state level.
So the federal court couldn't see the history of the case?
Correct. So they didn't know, the federal court did not know that the state had issued a temporary restraining order on the property against the agents, against the attorneys, anyone.
Even the Bank of New York Mellon?
Bank of New York Mellon,
they were
everybody.
all restrained by an order you got just last month. Today's what, the 19th, the 20th?
Today's the
Wednesday.
18th.
No, it's got to be at least the 19th. Anyway, it was 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago in October.
Right.
You got the order saying nothing to be done with this property till April of 2021. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to be sure I understand this. After you got that order, they went to the federal court without the whole record.
Correct.
And got a federal judge, or did they have a federal judge signature?
Actually, the judge is going over that. It's in the chambers right now.
Right as we're speaking right now here at noon.
Right, and I have that paperwork in my car. So the federal judge is asking the defendants to produce all of the state court orders that should have come up to the federal court when they removed the case. The case would still be in the state court if the judgment was, or the order was in their favor. They didn't like the order, so they removed it to federal, but they said, but we're not going to take the orders up. We don't want the judge to see that.
I think that's a felony. That's abuse of process. I think that's a felony.
Yeah.
So you're saying the Bank of New York Mellon corporation attorney, whoever they hired, Ryan Firm or whoever, committed a felony. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much.
And now you've been told by the current sheriff of Orange County you're not to even go in your own home.
Right. So they did a complete raid. I don't call it an eviction because they're not supposed to have been here to begin with. So they had a whole stream of police squad cars, teams. Oh my God! You have to see the photos. It's
on your Facebook.
Yes, it's heart-wrenching.
Look at this door. What's left of her door? This is not a ghetto neighborhood, but this is what the sheriff's deputies of Orange County. Remember, Orange County is that county where Mike Corona. If you don't know who Mike Corona is, let me fill you in. Mike Corona was the sheriff who was sentenced to 60 months in prison for committing felonies. That was the prior sheriff of Orange County, Mike Corona. And I predicted months before this he was in deep trouble. In fact, Sheriff Anderson of Santa Barbara was on my show the day I said to him, your friend, your Sheriff Deputy Mike Corona is in deep trouble. I think the current sheriffs are in deep trouble. They just don't realize it yet. But this law firm had no right to go push the sheriffs to do something based on a partial review of the history of this case. I think Cindy's going to win, but let's see what Cindy says. There's the court stamp, October 5th. There's the order that apparently Bank New York Mellon attorneys did not respect. This is page 2, where it lays it out very clearly. On October 5th, signed by Walter Schwarm, Judge of the Superior Court. It's really clearly there.
To be mindful, it says the restraining order granted herein shall expire on. It's left open.
You're right.
It's not expired. It's still going. Because there's going to be a preliminary injunction hearing on the order to show cause with the Bank of New York Mellon for its failure to appear and its attorney's failure to appear. And at the end of the day, the judge put it off to October 27th. Now, here's the catch. On October 5th, that Judge Schwarm issued this order, the Bank of New York Mellon's attorneys, hours later, took the case, the state case, and moved it to the federal court and did not bring this order.
So the federal magistrate, even if he looked at it, didn't know this was on the record.
He didn't know this exists.
That sounds like a felony.
It's a major felony for what they're pulling.
And now the sheriff's told you you can't even set foot on your own property?
Correct.
You can't go in your own house? You can't even remove your own 2 vehicles sitting on the driveway?
As of right now, I don't own anything. Even my gold medals. I don't own anything here. I'm supposed to go on with my life. I don't own anything.
And your Olympian gold medals that you won in 1988?
They're in my safe. But I don't own those anymore.
That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound...
My gymnasium, all the property in here, I don't own it. Well, they're saying it's stored. But here's the problem. I have to pay for all that. I have to buy my gold medal and all my stuff in here back.
When did you file your lawsuit against him for this recent action 2 days ago? This morning or yesterday?
This lawsuit was filed, I believe, September 11th. And the emergency ex parte was filed, doesn't say on this, I can't recall when the paperwork was filed because I don't have all the paperwork because it's inside the home.
It's in the house.
They're holding all the case files hostage. They don't want the judge to know what really happened.
Well, some of it's on the court record though, right?
Yes, but there's other new evidence that shows how they stole the title, and it also shows who the parties were that were streaming the equity out of this property, along with the Department of Business Oversight's desist orders against the known parties streaming the equity from the property. They were using my property as collateral, okay? That's why they stole the note from this property, and then they took out the loans with the bank.
And they forged your name.
Then
one of those documents, they said you were a white woman.
1 second, we've got Sherry Hernandez coming in.
Okay, hold.
Correct. And that's an office. That's why the boxes are stacked. That doesn't have. You should not be going through that.
Not only that, you just brought your stuff back from storage because you believed you had until April.
Correct.
Or until the hearing with the federal court.
What did they state?
Well, it's just a clerk. He's outraged, of course.
And then we can also show all the money laundering of monies out of the property, which caused me to go into the state. This was not caused because of me. It was what they caused.
And all these rulings that basically, without reading it, he put in all the other rulings. So it looks like he's trying to say here, it's just a mix.
To hide what was really going on, and they have an initial order from the Supreme Court, and I won on that. And it was basically proposed on April 10th or May 26th.
Well, this is not a bad neighborhood, but bad things have happened here because of the Bank New York Mellon, a guy named Diamond, and others. This is just off of Catella and Wanda.
Because he said it was a she. I said, has she made any kind of ruling yet? And he said, no, not yet. And he said, but you have all these pages, so.
And they didn't serve. Which is what they did at the same tactic at the state court. They didn't serve me.
Right. You're incidental. You're pro per, you don't count.
Right. So that's the common practice that they do. They go to the courts, they lie to persuade. They don't serve the person, so they can't respond and to bring in the truth. That's basically, in a nutshell, their whole standard of practice. Yeah. Why would they need to shut off my internet? Which is
locked you out from even being able to pack a suitcase of clothing.
Correct. That's another one.
You have nothing.
Yeah.
Have nothing.
You must.
With no notice.
You must be really insecure and weak that you have to shut off my internet in my home by unplugging the internet service so that the cameras cannot videotape what you're doing, and so that I can retrieve my mail and all the services you're claiming that you're sending me, which you know I can't get to. And they lie so bad. The sheriff says, we didn't do any of these things that you're alleging. Excuse me, I have you on video. Tampering with the cameras. The Ring cameras speak for themselves. We have still shot and video of them taking a pole. Deputy S. Harder took a pole and moved the camera so that they could not see the battle ram coming into the home. They send in two guys with AR-15s like they were going to war, like they were taking down a narco house, a drug sting, or a terrorist. Correct. So this is October 27th, minute order. It's a certified copy.
Now hold the back still a minute so I can, let me see that. Got it.
It's a certified copy of the minute order. Would you like me to read it?
Yeah, read it. Read it, at least the top paragraph.
Well, the most important part is
Read it.
the court having been notified by counsel for defendant Bank of New York Mellon that this case has been removed to federal court, hereby orders this case suspended pursuant to California Rules of Court Rule 3.650. All reporting requirements are vacated. The parties are ordered to comply with Rule 3.650 by notifying the court when the stay is vacated or no longer in effect. Failure to comply with its rule may subject counsel to sanctions pursuant to Rule 3.650. Notices regarding disposition of case or relief from stay are to be filed with this court. All future hearings currently set in this department are hereby vacated. We're getting some odd traffic come. That car actually has come through before. So what we're getting is like the investor people or people that have been in this Bank of New York Mellon Trust company. They've been coming by and coming up on the property and just making life a little bit more miserable. Needless to say, let's get back to the order. It says all future hearings currently set in this department are hereby vacated. The case is reassigned to the omnibus calendar. The status conference is scheduled for April 28th, 2021 at 1:30 p.m. in Department C66. Court orders clerk to give notice. So there's a really big issue. That law firm is lying and telling the federal courts that the temporary restraining order is expired. As you saw on the order, it's not expired. It's still going. It's because you didn't want to come to the OSC preliminary injunction hearing, which actually you hired another law firm in Long Beach to appear at the October 27th hearing to represent that we removed the case to the federal court. Here's the problem with that. The restraining order is still going. It's open, as what the minute order is saying.
I see that.
So they're misrepresenting facts to the federal judge, and they didn't put this in all the paperwork when they removed the case to federal court as what the statute requires. There's requirements in removing state cases to federal. It says here, when a case has been removed from state court to a federal district court, all injunctions, orders, and other proceedings had in such action prior to its removal shall remain in full force and effect until dissolved or modified by the district court. That's 28 USC sections 1450. They did not do that. They did not put the two
Did the sheriff that you talked to 2 days ago when they vandalized your front door, did he say he did not want to look at your paperwork?
He specifically said, I am not going to look at your paperwork. I don't need to look at your paperwork. He took the paperwork.
What was his name? Do you know what his name was?
Harder.
Harder?
Harder. He was the one that was running the whole operation.
And Harder told you he did not need to look at, he wasn't going to look at your paperwork.
Correct. But the problem with Mr. Harder, what he doesn't seem to understand, is when the court issued the temporary restraining order, which they did receive, and he kept saying, we did not receive it, he's lying. It specifically stated in the temporary order that pending hearing on the order to show cause, you and your employees and agents and any other persons acting with you or in your behalf are restrained and enjoined from causing a foreclosure sale on the property at 17, well, we don't want to tell where I live. Well, I don't live there anymore because I got evicted. 17841 Lincoln Street, Villa Park, 92861.
Which is a pretty nice neighborhood, except for what they did to your house.
Well, it's, as Mr. Harder said, open quote, it's not your house, end quote. You come up here, I'm going to arrest you. You're going to be arrested. So all of the deputies were trained to harass me and intimidate me to continue letting me know that I was going to be arrested. I'm on the government's property. You said don't go on the property. I'm not standing there, so why are you threatening me? I have a right to stand here. This is where I resided since 1992. And all of a sudden, they figured out how to streamline the equity out of the property, put it in their pockets, and they said, okay, Ms. Brown, you're going to pay for what we did. And if you don't pay it, we're just going to come and take your house.
And you've been trying to get a jury trial for all these years, and no judge will give you a jury trial. Is that right?
It's the biggest corruption. It's the biggest insider job with the county council, with the filing of documents in the county recorder's office, and then they pay. Well, we know what happens when you go into the superior court. You don't get your day in court. They don't want to look at your evidence. They keep it out of there because they have one goal, and that's to steal your property.
Did the attorney that brought this on, did he come out with the sheriff deputy SWAT team?
Yeah, he did.
What was his name?
Andrew Mace and Tad McCahone.
Andrew Mays.
Mase. M-A-S-E.
And Todd.
He's got some, they call him Tad, T-A-D, McCahone. But both of those opposing counsel were standing right in the home. They were in the home, and they are lying if they said that they weren't in there, because I have video and actual still shots. They were in the home.
Got it. This is what the neighborhood looks like. Cindy's house with half the door bashed in. And here's the policeman just 2 days ago with the door battering ram. I think these are sheriff deputies.
You can see all these vehicles.
All these police vehicles outside Cindy's home here on Lincoln Street. These are some more of the sheriff deputies, probably trained under ex-sheriff convicted felon Mike Corona. And here's the attorneys, I am told by Cindy. These two guys are the attorneys from the law firm that have been pushing this agenda to strip the equity, finish stripping the equity out of the house, then kick her out of the house, her own house.
Andrew Mays is in the middle, and the other guy, we don't know who he is.
Andrew Mays, the guy with the blue mask.
attorney for the Ryan firm.
Okay, and there's the locksmith having done his job. This is from Cindy's ring video at her front door. Notice they've got military weapons, and she wasn't even home. Had she been home, who knows, they might have shot her in her doorway and claimed self-defense. Cindy once had a concealed carry permit and is an avid gun owner.
Known Cindy for several years because we met through an attorney who abandoned, the same attorney that abandoned both our cases, so that is how we met originally. Cindy is usually very neat, organized person, but over the past several years she's been collecting documents, helping other people, working hard on trying to help other people from being foreclosed on. She has a special heart for the elderly, so if she hears someone that's a senior, she'll go in almost, at her own expense sometimes to help them from being put out on the streets. I think those of us who have been in this foreclosure crisis know that we're the only ones that understand the severity of what's going on here. Now, Cindy is an Olympic gold medal winner, and she has been all over the world representing the United States with the gold for women's basketball. She has no arrest record. She has no history of drug abuse, or alcoholism, and she's been an active member of helping the community throughout her time here. In her past, or in her most recent past, to justify them coming in here like she was a terrorist or a drug house. She has nothing to justify that kind of action. She's a homeowner defending her home. I've seen her documents. I've seen what she's gone through. She never took out this loan. She doesn't owe this loan.
Yeah, I've seen those loan documents as well, and they were forged, obviously, because he said, I'm sitting next to Cindy Brown, and check it off, she is a white woman.
Yeah.
Well, she's the darkest white woman I have ever seen.
Right?
Right. And so that the fraud was right in the beginning, and it's amazing, isn't it, that the courts could ignore this and not give her a jury trial?
Well, it is amazing, and I'm going to wait a minute, there's a car passing. To me, is the Department of Business Oversight has in their records a desist and refrain order for the person who purportedly issued this loan. And in the desist and refrain order, it talks about around the period that this happened to Cindy, that this man was filing fake deeds of trust and
no judges really take cognizance of that.
Does the judge not take cognizance of that? The Department of Business Oversight won't come in and testify for her because they don't help individuals. When they broke in on Cindy, they only let her to go in the house to get a couple of small things, which they said they could get for her. She has no change of clothes. She has no place else to go. She's living out here in her car because she suspects that because of the massive evidence that she has against their fraud and their abuse of the system, that they're going to come in and steal her boxes of evidence. She had put her things away in storage for a while, which explains why there's so many boxes here, because she went and got them back from storage because she had a temporary restraining order to keep them from coming in and breaking in on her for a while until there was a court hearing.
Which they ignored.
They ignored.
The sheriff ignored it?
The sheriff is blaming the attorney, and the attorney is blaming the sheriff. But they were all here.
And we just saw the photos of the sheriffs, and we saw the photos of
the attorney.
Of at least one of the attorneys from the, Ryan firm?
Yes, the Ryan firm.
Both were there.
And the problem with this, as with many homeowners, these matters could be easily resolved if they were required to prove their ownership interest when they went into court. If they were required to prove they were the party entitled to enforce the note, but they're not. The very nature of non-judicial foreclosure is that all they have to say is that you're in arrears and they foreclose on you. In arrears, they can foreclose on you without without you having any argument, unless you hire a lawyer and you go to fight it back.
Which she did at one time.
She could get her evidence into court, but her first attorney was disbarred, and her second attorney, who we met through, was also disbarred recently and abandoned several of our cases at the same time.
She was throwing Cindy and other cases under the bus, wasn't she?
Oh, absolutely.
She was.
Absolutely.
It appeared from all likelihood that blonde attorney that got disbarred was actually working for the banks against her own clients. Didn't it appear that way?
It appeared that way. It appeared that way.
And all she got was disbarred.
Right, right. But she's not the only attorney. Many attorneys just don't want to take this on because look at how many years it's taken Cindy. So she's had to go pro per, and most homeowners know their case better than anybody else. They know that they weren't in default, but once they put you into default through their own actions, which the term a forced place default, once they put you in default, you can't go in and fix the books and suddenly take yourself out of default. They have all the cards in their pocket. And so they come in and they say, oh, she was in default, but they don't tell you they stopped the payments, or they created a way for the payments not to be made, or they added some ridiculous charges that makes it look like you were in default when actually you don't own those charges, and it's going to take you years to get them taken off. Meanwhile, they add the charges onto the end of your loan and say you're in default.
Thank you very much, Sherry Hernandez.
You're welcome.
In addition to all the fraud we've seen in this case, it appears that the notary book, for which documents were supposed to have the signatures, are missing. There is so much fraud in this case. It's fraud upon fraud upon fraud. The sheriff's deputies never should have touched this case. Maybe they forgot. Sheriff Mike Corona went to prison, and they didn't put him in prison for jaywalking. I think the current sheriff maybe needs a few years in jail to let this go under their watch. William Wagener here in Villa Park, Orange County, California. Cindy Brown has been grossly wronged, and perhaps we need to change the law so that no homeowner can be removed from their home until they've had a jury trial of 12 other homeowners. It's William Wagner's view from Orange County. Thanks for watching.